Short Rest with Fonzi and Carlo.
Coffee's acting in.
Is
Am I
it?
coming in okay? Yeah.
Yeah, you are coming in great. My hand is not picking up my mug.
The Your mug is stealthed.
Parang ako nagaganon lang. So
Yung
dumb. Peter Panning.
Mime.
So, hello, Carlo. Welcome
Hello.
to this week's episode of ano parang Short Rest.
Sort of. How many podcasts have you been in, Fonzie?
I've been in
I
two.
thought you I thought you were gonna say Critical Role. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Critical Role in a bit and a lot of
Yeah.
beautiful
I think it's-
shows and content from, for our Dungeons and Dragons community.
Beloved Dungeons and Dragons community and the game itself.
Yes.
All right. So hey Fonzie, yes, let's just go for it. Let's roll some hit dice. How was your week? How have you been, buddy?
My week has been filled with anxiety and anticipation
Oh no.
because I've been waiting fervently and patiently for my bike to arrive, which has not arrived, and which has caused like a lot of concern for me because of the weather.
Okay.
And
I
parang na,
understand
na parang na ano nyo, my also like in a more serious note, like I was kind of reminded of how treacherous yung seafarers can be and cargo through sea because of the
Oh,
recent
no.
news of people, of Filipinos, like there was a cargo ship filled with 6,000 cows that got
Oh.
drowned in near the sea in Japan, some sort of like that. And yeah, our thoughts and prayers go to the family of those
Of
who are
those.
still not recovered or those still are missing. So we hope and we pray that they are able to find their way back to their homes soon. Yeah. So after that event, like I was checking up my on the status of my bike, like when it would arrive, just based on the
Okay.
tracking number, and just checking it every day. No status, checking every day, no status. And after like I've heard of that happening, I just kind of just shut up for a bit and just kind of like hope that they would get to their destination safely.
Yeah.
And hoping my bike would come safely, but I'm not really attached to when. So I know that
Okay.
it will arrive soon.
Have you
So,
called
yeah.
the company? Or-
I have not really. I will try to call them on Monday, maybe.
Yeah. Just so that that's a bike. So, and it's not just your average bike, right? It's an investment bike. Like it's going to be your. This is a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Okay, so I'm just gonna stay away from the bike thing. But yeah, it's not the regular kind of bike that you get off of Lazada. It's pretty pricey, but it's definitely quality wise, it's good. So yeah, I hope you do get that
Thank you. I hope so too.
soon. Then,
How about
yeah,
you,
I wish-
Carlo? Like, would you like to roll for hit dice? How was your?
Yeah, I would like to roll for hit tries. Yep, I rolled actually, and I rolled a 13.
Not bad.
And,
Hey, that's a
not bad,
success.
Yeah. So my week was pretty eventful. So I've been like I've had a couple accounts that I had managed. I've been given accounts to manage from the office, which is okay, considering that I also manage people and I also do production work. I feel like I'm starting to be really productive, and I like as someone who's been like as someone who's 32 years old, that feels like I'm going somewhere. I might not be Taylor Swift levels of success, pero I'm doing something. I'm helping people out, not only the clients but also the people I work with.
Mhm.
So I feel that that's really good. That's something I can appreciate for myself. And since I've leveled up yung apartment thing ko, I've also paid my first electric bill.
Oh,
That's not
congratulations.
yeah, which is kind of pricier than my previous apartment bills. Yung iba like normally my electric bills would amount to like 500 tops, 500 700. Now it's like at 2,000. And that pushed me to the point that why did I incur, no, actually 3,000 pesos. Why did I incur this much? So I looked through the wattage of each appliance of my each of the appliances in my unit. So people who are going to move out, do that. Look through the wattage, um, establish how much time, or establish like how many hours you use this appliance, and then multiply that by 30, and that would give you your power usage for the entirety of the month, right?
Mhm.
And then that, more or less, if you're aware of how kilo power transmission is equated to money, you can more or less get an estimate of how much your bill is gonna cost. So I did that over the week, and I feel so much like an adult. And I'm like, no, I don't need the refrigerator, and I don't need the lights. I can live in the dark. So, but yeah, that's my major milestone for
Yeah.
for this week, and I'm really happy as I was able to do that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great. I
yeah.
remember the first time I transferred to my own apartment, like by
Okay.
myself and stuff like that. It was this very small one bedroom apartment and just me. And the first appliance that I bought was an air conditioned unit, a
Mhm.
television, and a futon. that was
Oh,
and
nice.
that was my life for a good part of like a month or so before I started, gathering more appliances and stuff. I got a bed, a proper bed, a good table, this table that I'm still using now, and just and yeah, it just piles on. It just piles on. And I don't really, and my that electricity bill is insane for one person, like 3,000 for one person. Maybe throw your refrigerator away.
You don't
Is it?
need the refrigerator.
You don't need that. Yeah.
Just eat as you go. Live off the land.
Salt your meat.
Bury it underground.
Yeah. So, yeah, just talking about burying things on the ground. Segue idea.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Let's just bury our whatever.
bury our worries for the week on the ground and
Yeah.
talk about something that we are passionate about for this week, which is Dungeons and Dragons in relation to live productions or anything that
Yeah.
media or any creator inspired by Dungeons and Dragons out there.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, Fonzie. I don't know. I haven't really watched um that many shows yet. Or
Mhm.
that I watched Critical Role. Everyone's watched Critical Role.
Mhm.
I've watched a few from strangely also from the same teams content, like Matt Mercer goes on tours, diba? And he has these events with Wizards of the Coast, the one where
Mhm.
Jox Machina was present. I've watched that. I've watched other productions as well, but not as regular as as Critical Role. So I'll just I may not have I may not have like enough of I haven't watched enough to give like a full, I guess, analysis of these shows. But I as someone who's viewed and can appreciate a good show, I think I can give some feedback on what makes a good live production.
Absolutely. And
Or yeah,
the first show that I ever watched, like, what was the first show that you ever watched about D&D or
the
anything?
for sure that really pushed me, of course, was Critical Role. I'll tell you about it because I remember this so distinctly. But how did I come to how did I come to be so passionate about rolling dice and playing make believe characters? And like this was episode 100 when Critical Role, when Vox Machina fought the Sphinx. They were on their way to get a vestige of divergence, and they fought the Sphinx. And I'm like, at that it was in that episode that Grog, the barbarian Goliath, died because of the sentient sword. I forgot the name of the sentient sword. And I was like, holy shit, so he's dead. Parang this guy is just narrating with the voice, which really helps you immerse into the characters, and you just play out these scenes in your head. And I'm like, okay, that's what happened. Oh, cool. And then I watched the entire 3-hour episode. That's 3 effing hours. just listening to these people and the emotional attachment they have with these characters. Like, I know they're artists, they're actors essentially, but you feel that shit, right? They're attached to it. And I continued watching. I caught up to and yeah, until it led to that epic conclusion where they fought a demigod or a god essentially, diba? So I'm like, holy shit, these it's that's the first that's my first experience of a good D&D show. Just really being able to feel the feelings and
Yeah, and that's a tough act to follow. But Critical Role is definitely one of the first shows that I watched in D&D, but actually not the first that not the reason why I really fell in love with the game. The reason or the first show that I watched was the PAX events, Penny Arcade's D&D shows, where Christopher Perkins, who is the game designer for and executive for Wizards for Dungeons and Dragons, is the dungeon master. So that was the first first show that I really got into Dungeons and Dragons. Essentially, and it's very different from how Critical Role does it, because essentially it's more of old school D&D where people more or less describe what they want to do rather than really go into immersing themselves and acting it out, which is the Mercer way. But it was more of a very chill vibe, and I would go into, and it was very comedic as well. And maybe that's why that's why Dungeons and Dragons, at least with my games and with my players, like I like comedy. I like mixing it up and not being so serious. And after that show, because it does come out like once every a few months whenever there's a big event, so you don't really get much content as you go. So I was just playing catch up, and when I caught up, I started to venture out and look for other options of what Dungeons and Dragons campaigns would be, and that's when I discovered like Critical Role. I think they were already finishing their campaign, more or less their campaign 1, when I started to pick them up and watch. And I think it was midpoint when spoilers, when Scanlan decided to leave the party.
You got to that episode.
That was the first time I watched the Critical Role the live show, and it was very intense. It was very intense. I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
This is a game. Why
are they so serious? And they were so into it. Like, okay, this is Dungeons and Dragons. This is Critical Role. So, okay, after a few weeks, I started to rewatch, which was a bit of a challenge, because the first few episodes of Critical Role is production-wise is really bad, and so I started to really pick up with the Briarwoods arc. That's when I started to watch Critical Role religiously. I would watch maybe 1 or 2 episodes a day, which was a lot, because that's 8 hours of
like
content.
8 hours essentially.
So while I was working, I would watch it on the side. I have a second monitor up and just watch it while doing mundane things, and just watching. And eventually, after getting to that part, to the ending, it was really emotional for me as well. Like, as a viewer, you would really connect with the characters just because of the emotions that they were talking about in game were very real emotions, and you can really connect with that. And that's really what makes Critical Role a real success in terms of like how streaming D&D could be. But there have been a lot of shows like in between, like podcasts and audio podcasts that are awesome, that are, I would dare say, even better than Critical Role in terms of like just audio production is concerned. Like
Yeah.
Dungeons and Daddies is a very hilarious show about a bunch of dads venturing forth into the forgotten realms to recover their lost sons, and not
Okay.
another D&D podcast, which is
Not
comprised
another
of
D&D podcast is good.
which is comprised of just four people, four comedians, and they talk about and they play D&D, and it's very very fun how they how they interact with the characters and interact with NPCs, and I get a lot of inspiration from how they run NPCs. Of course, Matt Mercer is still uh, on a very different plane, but
Yeah.
in terms of like just a few friends like hanging out and having fun, I think the options or the the channels that are able to access the hilarity and the not taking it seriously and just having fun with NPCs is a very very no, a very very refreshing change of pace in terms of
Yeah.
what you can do with an NPC. Yeah.
So I guess Fonzie, since now that we're talking about really good shows and stuff, maybe we can get into like what makes them good. Like what makes it essentially this is what parang
Mhm.
just a bunch of friends uh, rolling dice and playing make believe. Diba? Parang that doesn't sound so good when you think about it production wise, right?
Mhm.
But these guys managed to pull it off. Diba? Really well. These
Mhm.
good shows, and I've seen some other streams that are not as good, obviously because production wise, Pero like, how do I know how? Like, I guess what makes a good Dungeons and Dragons stream or show for you?
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question because we do see like there are a lot of Dungeons and Dragons games on YouTube and on podcast forums,
Yeah,
but not all of them get the attention. Um, Particularly, just mainly because of what their intention is in terms of like bringing the game onto the streaming platform. And with Critical Role and with the success of Critical Role in terms of streaming, sure, the synopsis or the description of it is just they're a bunch of friends, but really if we look at it, they're not just a bunch of friends, they're voice actors,
they're
and
voice
they're
actors,
very
man.
excellent voice actors. Like they are very you would say very up there in terms of the VO community. Like Matt Mercer has experience off the wazoo. Like he has in terms of dungeon mastering as well. Like he's not really technically he doesn't remember all the rules or like on a technical aspect, right? But in terms of like story building, he knows how to make it work. He knows how to
Like
build.
20 years, if I could remember one of their streams. 20 years of in a live show. 20 years of Dungeons and Dragons, man.
Yeah, that's a lot. A lot. And with your 20 years of Dungeons and Dragons, you probably experienced, a number
Picked up a
of,
thing or two. Oh,
and even, experienced players that are not really quite uh, matching your
doesn't jive
level
well.
or
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go into commitment in terms of acting. And with acting, because essentially how I see Critical Role is it's more of an acting show.
Yeah.
It's more of role play, really. And one thing that you learn as an actor as you go into theater is that a rotten tomato ruins the bunch, right?
Ah, I
So
see. So you
if
take
you
them down.
have one player there who isn't really able to connect with the character in an emotional level in a way that matches the tribe
Yeah.
or the group, it spoils the pot.
Yeah.
Kind of spoils the pot, which
He's
is contra.
in every. Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in like I was gonna say, in every adventuring party, there's one who's just in it for the money, and I
Yeah,
guess that's him.
yeah. He's the guy who doesn't role play. He's the guy who doesn't engage, who doesn't listen to the DM. So those are the things that are very, something that is as you build of something of value that you need to watch out for, right? And I feel like Critical Role has really been fortunate in terms of gathering a collection of people who are into that. Like
They're real
individually,
friends.
Yeah, they're real friends. Individually, they're not the best Dungeons and Dragons players. They don't really know much of the rules,
Yeah,
but it's just the dynamic, right? It's just the
they have fun.
dynamic that
Yeah.
that you witness, and the synergy that they have, and the reactions they have over events that happen, and the humor is there, the drama is there, and it's just a really really good collection of artists who are able to really portray their character and play the game correctly, or more or less, right? Correctly. And like for example, like other D&D shows that I enjoyed are similar to that. They're not as, in terms of like commitment, they're not, and immersion, they're not as into their characters. But that's not the point of creating a good D&D show. It's just a collection
Mm.
of people, and it just has to have synergy. Like you have to have that positive and growing synergy that you would
Yeah,
have
I,
with.
I I guess there needs to be some level. I'm not sure what you call it in theater. Like the characters have to play off each other,
Yeah,
and this is exactly what Critical Role has, no?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's more chemistry. It's
yeah,
more
chemistry.
like when Tom Holland was cast as Spider-Man, they
Mm-hmm.
had a screen test with Steve Rogers, with Chris
Captain
Evans.
America. Yeah.
So he was part of that process of, and just sharing the screen with how they look and what they feel like together,
Mm-hmm.
and if it works or doesn't work. Um, and it's curious that you would pick Chris Evans over, let's say, Iron Man, uh, to be able to share the screen with, or to screen test with that, right? Because
Yeah.
essentially, how they're looking at, um, kind of like passing of the baton from Captain America to Spider-Man, in terms of like the
Spider-Man,
leadership of the Avengers
the
and where it's going to
Avengers.
go. So it's just that, when two people are jiving, and audience can pick up on that. They're smart that way, and I think like thousands of years of evolution has taught us whether or not two people are working or not working, or they have
Yeah.
the chemistry or not, because we are all social beings. We can all tell,
Mm.
whether there's parang iba yung energy ng room, ha?
Yeah.
Parang nag-away kayo.
Yeah.
parang
You guys,
yeah, and that's
there's tension in this room.
that's an intelligence that we don't necessarily can't understand really, but we just really know, right?
We
That's just,
feel, yeah,
yeah, we feel it. That's just our ability to empathize and ability to
our
connect.
insight,
Yeah,
our
like
inside checks.
with how you've observed Critical Role, Carlo, like what works for you in terms of what they bring to the table in terms of entertainment, and with
Um,
other shows as well.
well, I think it's pretty. I've stated that they're really high up in the VO, in the VO ladder question mark, or in the VO space, I guess, the voiceover space, and they portray these characters so well that and their stories are so well written, because I know they write for these, for their respective characters. All of these, the entire Critical Role crew, they're very well written, and to such an extent that you can resonate with each of these characters, right? So Grog's recklessness, Pike's empathy, but also wanton destruction of things, Percival's edginess, and Vax's sacrifice for the people he loves. So there's a little bit, like when it comes to the first season at least, there's a little bit of me and all these characters that I can resonate with, and that's what really got me into this story, which eventually got me into this game. And I'll be honest, it's one of the things that inspired me to finally DM. Like I'd like to create that feeling of being really one with your character, projecting something that you're aspiring to be into a character, and actually making it happen. And to be honest, that's I mentioned this na din in our first episode. Like that's why I created a monk, because I was in triathlete training, and monks can do extreme shit in terms of movement, just movement speed. The mobile monk, movement speed wise, just that guy can go up to 60, 60 meter or 60 feet in a matter of 6 seconds. So that's really fast when you think about it in real life. And parang that's something that I anyway. My point is I just wanted that kind of I just wanted like that kind of feeling for other players.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then that's what works for me in critical role in for critical role, just being really in touch with these characters and the story, being so immersed in what's going on and what's happening. I remember when some no spoil. I'm not gonna spoil you, but when some characters die, I was kind of anxious. Will he live? Will they, or will he be replaced by someone else? So there's that. It's managed to immerse me, and I guess that's the term. It's managed to immersion is the term. It's managed to immerse me so much that I get invested in the show. And I mean, based on results, right? There are like thousands upon thousands of artwork for these characters, for these events, for these situations. Diba? You don't do that. You don't do something like that by simple just hanging around there. Like there needs to be an emotional attachment, which they've managed to capture or to do. I think, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, emotional aspect in terms of like just looking at the elements of the show, right? That they are able to capture everyone in a very clear picture. Like they are all like seated beside each other and they're able to react with each other. And they're all looking at Matthew Mercer, who is situated, isolated in a DM space where he
Yeah.
can be seen by the entire players. And sometimes, the camera just focuses on him, and sometimes they focus on the players, and sometimes, and especially when combat starts, you could feel the tension and the energy kind of build up, and a lot of it has to do with how Matt or the DM controls the situation in the environment, like with the music and with the effects and with his incorporation of Dwarven Forge and
Oh
those
yeah.
excellent minis and stuff like that. Those are stuff
Dwarven
that,
Fridge.
yeah, those are the things that every DM would want. Like, to be honest, like I was looking at prices for Dwarven Forge and it's crazy expensive. Like,
I
dude,
saw. So I'm like,
not a joke. Like how
yeah, there.
on although like you would really want that level of
Production
quality in
or
terms of
yeah.
the elements and the toys that you're able to have in your game. Um, yeah, which they're really blessed to have because I think like in the beginning of their streams, Matt would draw the maps by himself, and he would like just have those really just
Yeah.
lines and stuff like that, and they would have minis, and that would be enough, to be really to establish that immersion, but really just leveling up what the DM has and what toys that he has in terms of like just the combat and the minis and the art and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just adds more flavor into the immersion of the game, which I feel
And the
like
people.
and the people and the level of commitment into it. Like when I started playing D&D, the first thing that I assumed was a must was you had to have a mini of your
Yeah.
character, because a mini of your character would mean that you're invested in it, right? That you invested in this character, that you brought it
It's
to
a
life.
physical manifestation
Yeah,
of your
and
character, of your
yeah,
imagination.
precisely. And it's very easy, to pick out characters right off the fly and create the character sheet with the apps that we have available, especially in Adventures League, when you would find like tier on table. Okay, I'll just create the character. Jan Bogbilat, parang ganon. Tapos, he's a
It's like
tabaxi
a
from the
Fonzi
sewers.
name generator.
He's a tabaxi from the sewers of Waterdeep, and he smells like fish. Parang ganon.
Uh,
He's a rogue. Ganon, ganon. So that's just okay. So that's something that you made off the fly, but it doesn't really have that level of insight into the characters. Like that's really something amazing that Matt does also, and other DMs do, that they're able to pick out certain stories or items from the character's backstory and relate that into the game.
Yeah.
That's something that even I don't do because parang it's also very useful for the players to have that level of backstory. Like I did ask you guys for backstories for it's a little segue
Yeah.
to our Curse of Strahd preparation. I did ask you for certain backstories, and some of you have backstories. Like wow,
Oh, did Luke write
dude.
did Luke write a novel?
Those are some wow. Those are some backstories there. And
Yeah. I'll ask you in stream right now. What do you think of mine? It's pretty simplistic.
simplistic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Could you?
like as long as there is information about
Mm-mm.
the character's backstory and it just has to be as things happen to you as a player, you just have to, like in the rules, the rule of improv is say yes, and
Yes.
so when things happen to you, whether it is written or not written in your backstory, you just have to roll with it. And hopefully,
Yeah.
certain players like that are able to pick up on clues, right, of how the story relates to them. Not sure if it's going to happen in Strahd. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe,
Yeah.
but it's certainly very pertinent information that your DM would really like to know. Like, especially for if you're planning a long-term campaign
Yeah.
that has to do something about your past or resolving things that you would want from your
Maybe
past to
that's
the
a
story now.
Yeah. Maybe that's another thing that we should consider in good shows. Like it's the story, right? So like I know that our version of Strad would be the Adventurers League version, right? Um, whether or not I mean I'd like to record it. I'd like to get permission from the guys then if they'd like to, if it's okay to do that. Pero like we're doing we're doing an Adventurers League version of Curse of Strahd. Uh, I, 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 I think yeah. In terms of story, that's another thing that makes good D&D shows, right? So I kind of want to know how this story, how if we're good to record our Curse of Strahd sessions, at least maybe the highlights, if it would make for a good D&D show. And a lot of people are already aware of what Curse of Strahd is. So the
Yeah.
only unique thing that we could offer is really the hijinks that our that our party can offer, right? Can give or can dole out.
And
Yeah.
with the benefit of Curse of Strahd is it's very different. Uh,
Yeah.
every game is different. Every campaign is different. Mainly because of the Taroka deck mechanic. Every game is different based on how the cards read what your adventures would be like, right? And
What's in the cards? Oh
you'll find out. But essentially, what Curse of Strahd has to offer, especially for the DMs, is that it's very upfront with how it tells the DM that the campaign is really up to you. Like what you want to do with it, it's your idea, and also the campaign also is dependent on the actions of the players, like where they intend to go and how they intend to interact with certain things. And there are things that prepare you for, let's say you kill an NPC right off the bat, like what would happen. Okay, this would happen, that. But
Oh
if you
gosh.
choose to go with the NPC and maybe follow and support the NPC, that could happen. Whether or not you choose to kill Strahd, or whether or not you choose to champion Strahd's cause, once you
There is an option like that. It's like
it's
it's
D&D. You
like
can do whatever you want.
it's like Skyrim Dawnguard. Would you want to join the vampires?
Yeah, the thing with Strahd is he's not like Zariel, who can't be
Yeah.
can't be reasoned with. He has his own ego, and like there are like guides to how Strahd is
Play
in
Strahd.
terms of like how to play Strahd. That he's this evil guy. Okay, right. You don't spend hundreds of years learning about eternal life and end up evil. But you would have a certain sense of perspective.
Deft, yeah, diba?
Yeah,
To
that he probably is leaning towards it just because of how he went into immortality, and there's that entire story arc there that you would find out, and hopefully, as you uncover more about him and his lore, you would understand like what were the decisions that he had to make at that time, like what was the circumstances. And yeah, hopefully, like building off of, like, you would just get to know like the skeleton part of the entire story of, okay, these are the circumstances, but they don't really go into, they're like history books. Well, but you don't really get much detail. You just know what happened, but why it happened.
oh. Now I'm gonna look out for those as a
Yeah.
player. My character would probably just be in it for the ride, but as
Yeah.
someone outside,
So
I'm looking.
so in terms of like my agenda of it being a live stream worthy, of course, I'm hoping for it to, for it to have some success and for it to be at least really good. But my focus is really just making it as fun for the players as I can.
Yeah.
That's really just my focus. Everything else I feel like is will be a result of that. Like if it's going to translate well into an audience, then great. And if our players are able to really capture attention and really play their characters very well, then great. But if not, that's also fine, because that's not really the point for me. The point is just
Yeah.
having,
Fun.
fun Sunday nights, scaring the shit out of you occasionally.
Oh, great. And it's November too. Fuck.
So yeah, hopefully, yeah, that's definitely a campaign worth having. I feel like Curse of Strahd, as I'm reading more into it, it's definitely a campaign that not all DMs can pull off. But
I mean, a lot of other DMs can pull off those basic coverage, right? Properly. You know what I mean? In terms of having a
Shade.
really good show.
Shade. Yeah, but yeah, in terms of like Curse of Strahd and just the potential of the story is just very amazing.
Yeah.
You have the classic case of Dracula and being obsessed with the past, and how it and how the past reincarnates into this cycle of events happening in his course, in his journey through immortality, reminding him of the things that are unsettled in his past, and kind of like trapped in this prison of immortality. Now, he thought that this was what he wanted, but it's a prison.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yes.
it's a very
And
amazing
he
story.
lived for 100 years. Like, there has to be some sort of introspection, right? And if he had this introspection, like, why is he still evil? Diba? Parang,
Yeah.
was he
And that-
looking at
Yeah, I'm
things
looking
in
at.
the wrong way?
I'm actually looking at, like, if I hope it's not a spoiler or anything. I'm actually looking at why it's called the Curse of Strahd. Is it the Curse of Strahd, or is it the Curse of Strahd?
Oh, wow. Now you got me thinking. Okay. No more. No mas. No mas.
So
Because, okay, think of something else.
right. So it's just that, right? It's just that kernel of an idea. Like, okay, whose curse really is this? Like, who does this curse belong to?
Ano ba to? Parang analysis paralysis ano si
Yeah, as I'm learning, yeah.
Pero no, yeah, anyway. Yeah. Going back to di ba? To Dungeons and Dragons shows. And I think there was a local show din dito sa Philippines.
Oh yeah.
Si Greasy Snitches, they do that they do that on I'm not sure how often they do it. Pero because of COVID, I think they stopped. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We'll
they
have
mainly,
to
they mainly do Adventures League modules. So
Yeah.
they do mostly, like, I know the Greasy Snitches, they produce their own content in terms of, like, they submit their own adventures to the Adventures League, which is something that we should consider if we-
Yeah,
like in the future.
I really did a fuck ton of content for but I'm not sure if it's if it's consistent with the overall lore. Maybe we can invite someone from their group to talk about that.
Yeah,
So
maybe in the
like
future.
how to become a legend in the Adventurers League group by sending modules. And I'd love that. I'd love to do that actually. Make money
Right.
out of it. Then
Yeah.
have someone illegally download it from somewhere.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that.
No, but yeah. I mean next time. Pero yeah, we'll probably invite someone. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yo, we're gonna post this episode. Just hit us up or we'll hit you up, whatever.
If you do happen to watch it accidentally when your
Yeah.
child sits on your phone and downloads the short rest, and your finger accidentally comes into like 30 minutes into the episode and you listen to this, then great. And hit us
Yeah.
up if you want. No
Hit
pressure.
the follow button, hit the subscribe and like button, and press the bell notification so you get notified for my content.
So, if you were to produce like a very successful D&D show, right? If you had the opportunity to be able to do that,
I mean, I'd
what
love to, and
what do you feel like are the elements that have to be there for it to be successful?
I think we can draw it off of what you said. We can draw those off of what you said, Fonzie. I think the characters have to play off each other really well. I think there needs to be chemistry. Like we need to and this is me talking about the Curse of Strahd campaign that we plan to broadcast, diba? No, not broadcast, sorry, to like set for public viewing. Because we're not sure yet if it's a live stream or if we're going to put it on VOD for YouTube. We're not sure yet. Pero yeah, that's one thing that we have to keep in mind. There are players kasi that are really into it, like in our table, who can really like present, who can really talk, or who just ooze passion whenever it's their turn or whenever they want to act something out, diba? That's one thing, and another thing would be like just the production value, right? So the sound quality should be good. You mentioned how you listen to it while working, no? So parang if it's a really bad sound or if it's a really bad audio, if we have really bad audio, people will just be encouraged. Like, I mean, I don't have the looks of I like people won't look at me like they look at I don't know, sino bang handsome na shit, no, okay. I'm no Johnny Depp, so they're not incentivized to look at me, right? So parang they'd rather listen, and if you have a good voice or if you have a good audio, they'll most likely stay. Those are so basically good audio as well. When it comes to combat, I mean, sure, combat is good, pero we make do with what we have, right? We don't have the sponsorship of Dwarven Forge yet. Dwarven Forge, please hit us up.
Or any local 3D printing shop.
Yeah, we will fucking advertise for you, man. Anyway, yeah, diba? Parang like your setup gets us so immersed, and I feel like that kind of immersion from the players and what we project outside in public is something that other players can get into and in turn incentivize them to watch the show or play the game, play more games, publicize their games. It's what I call the critical role effect, where a bunch of guys who just roll dice, like think about it again. I mentioned this, like these guys just roll dice in public and act out characters. How has this manifested into other YouTube shows doing the same? Like there are other gaming channels who have suddenly, okay, that's pretty off brand. All of a sudden having a role playing game, diba? Parang it's So I think that's the kind of thing that really makes up for a good show. And if I were one, I definitely consider that. And alam mo, Fonzie, you worked in theater na. Kami, we haven't worked in theater. This is me just talking about the Curse of Strahd show. Pero, parang, I think really the best that we can offer is yun nga, parang the comedy that comes with our with our with the band that we have. And if not comedy, just the raw emotion of something just happening out of nowhere. But I think that's what's going to get I think that's what's going to get the audience. Just um, our emotion pushing the narrative of the story for people to understand and resonate with. And once they do that, I think that's what makes up a good show.
Yeah, and have fun. Do
Yeah.
what's
Oh
fun.
yeah, there's that.
Eh,
I don't know, man. I'm so scared of your Curse of Strahd now.
don't be like it's going to be great. It's going to be fine. Don't worry.
It's gonna be fine. Here, have some more.
Yeah, but as we didn't really have session zero, maybe we could have like a session zero, very short
should.
session zero, on Sunday when we play. We could just talk about like, okay, this is what you would expect. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be a hard module, which it is a very hard module.
You should
And-
come up with a safe word.
yeah, and like with what I'm reading in terms of like how to run Curse of Strahd and stuff like that, and just general DM tips, I've been really gaining a lot of insight into like how they did their own Curse of Strahd and what color of game that they wanted to give. Like with me, like I understand also like the value of balancing out the narratives and the payoffs. The payoffs being this cycle of emotions that you go through during a game, right? Like there's happiness, there's sadness, there's anger, there's just really this flow of emotions. And just being able to balance it out in a game, because you wouldn't want to play something that is consistently horrifying. Right? You wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to subject yourself to that week after week. There will be no payoff for you, because it's just going to be like a very toxic game. Like, oh my god, this shit again. But then
And
again,
I assume everyone's gonna go meta pag ganun, di ba? Like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna die, do something out of Anyway, go on.
yeah, with other games, they're like that. Like for example, Tomb of Annihilation can push your players to to really min max and really think about meta and really subject yourself to really just understanding, and the paranoia level is off the charts with Tomb of Annihilation, because the entire island wants to kill you. There is
That's
nothing in that island that will not kill you, and there are fucking T-Rexes roaming around, for goodness
Yo,
sake.
I wanna go to Cholt now.
Yeah, let's go to Cholt. Like after Curse of Strahd, na parang
Yeah, I was going to Strahd.
from the fire into the oven or something like that. From the oven into the fire. Yeah, but essentially, like, and Tomb of Annihilation was actually actually written with, I think the writers of Rick and Morty, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but some comedy writer, right? And what Tomb of Annihilation should be, like the approach should be, is with a certain sense of morbid humor, that you would die in the most ridiculous way the one person could die. And it's a bit of that. It's balancing and letting go of your need to survive and just surrendering to how hilarious death could happen to you in that island, which is certainly interesting. I haven't prepped for Doha yet,
Yeah.
but maybe
If it's written, go ahead.
If it's written what?
If it's written by some of the writers of Rick and Morty, and considering how you described it, yeah, there's this whole nihilism theme going on in there. That's that's very, yeah, it's nihilistic, so it's cool, I guess.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of like, that's why season 9 Descent of Avernus is kind of like almost unappealing, because it's very one directional in terms of
It's
like,
what makes it beautiful, man. What? Yeah, sorry about that. Go on.
I had that coming. But But essentially, like that's just the appeal of Descent. Is that you go into hell, you save a city, you get out. It's a Fast and Furious movie. Essentially, that's what it is.
As now, now that you said that, it's like I
With cars and
yeah.
explosions and
Actually, yeah, it's like Mad Max meets no Fast and the Furious.
like, essentially, it's just like that.
You have to lift a whole city up.
And we don't want to talk about Dragon Heist and Waterdeep because it's shit. But
Oh,
ooh,
I haven't
shade.
played those, so
And
yeah.
would you want to? What would you want to experience the
Maybe
shit
in the
of it?
future.
Of
I mean,
Dragon
if it's
Heist
not good,
Waterdeep?
I'd rather not. I'm just hoping that we get to finish one of these campaigns. Because like our campaign with EJ is still on hiatus, the Horde of the Dragon Queen. And guys, this has gone on for this has been going on for since 2016 pa.
Jesus,
It's like 4 years na.
4 years.
Yeah. And then we have the other campaign, which is yung Descent of Avernus. We'll probably think of how we can work that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Schedules
we
permit.
also have that's the greatest threat of all Dungeons and Dragons worlds. Schedules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're almost done essentially with Descent. You need maybe a few more episodes, maybe a few more sessions before we can entertain the possibility of a finale. But you're almost there. But if schedules permit, we could probably figure it out. But essentially,
I hope so.
we tried to like record the entire thing, the entire Descent, right? Like the first few episodes. We were still in Baldur's Gate. We were handling certain things, and it was fun. At least for us, like it was entertaining.
Yeah.
Like I still remember a couple of like hilarious things that I did like in that game.
Yeah.
Like
You beat that elven girl in that card game, and I was so close to.
yeah, and there was one time when I rolled a natural 20 in my death save.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
we were in the sewers. And as I was standing up, I was saying, clutching my hand and raising my fist, "Putang ina mo! Putang ina mo!" And then you managed, those moments that are really fun.
Yeah, we live for
Really
those.
fun.
Like if it's not fun for the audience, it's probably fun for us. And I guess that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, or as long as it's fun for us. And if it's fun for the audience, then great. If it's not fun for
Great.
the
That's a
audience, then
plus.
it's okay.
It's okay.
You
You're
suck.
doing it for us, assholes. Just subscribe.
Yeah, I think that's the point of it. Like that's really just my focus. Like I wouldn't want to be the least that the most like what I would really want to avoid is just going into the idea of it being recorded and that being my priority. Like being conscious about my
These are being recorded. Yeah.
but it's definitely not my priority. Like I would really want to watch myself DM and watch myself talk, mainly just because to see, okay, that didn't really sound out right. Oh, that ruling was wrong, or just for me to be able to gather feedback for myself, like, and for me to be able to improve as a DM.
Yeah.
Because like in the flow of things, you don't really necessarily talk about it. Like you do manage to improve based on feedback, but like in the flow of the game, it's not really something that is measurable in terms of like how are you able to measure your performance. Like buy a heart monitor for your players and see how stressed they
Scared,
are.
I see it.
How stressed they
I'm
are
just
when
having
you
a heart
introduce. So it's not something that's measurable. Like, yeah, I had fun. Okay, on the scale of 1 to 10, how much fun did you have? It's not really something we do in terms of like metrics.
even in this podcast, right? Like, yeah, I'm conscious of the metrics, and I'm happy that this is my best performing playlist and my YouTube channel yet. But at the end of
Hey.
the day, it's just us talking about the thing that we love, and maybe, just maybe, it's the most important part, or it's the most important thing in any Dungeons and Dragons show. Like, you act out your characters and have genuine fun with your players,
Mm-hmm.
and just have genuine fun with each other. It's all about that, eh.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
Plus na yung meron kayong sponsors na Dwarven Forge and na Wizards of the Coast, diba? That's a plus, and I'm not saying we wouldn't like that. We'd love that. Please
I think
notice us, senpai.
yeah, I think the market is still open for the first Filipino produced Dungeons and Dragons show that to really hit it off, because
Yeah.
there are like small productions, and with the Greasy Snitches, you're all doing an amazing job, but it
Yeah,
hasn't
diba?
really hit the mainstream, not
Yeah.
like other D&D shows have been. And yeah, hopefully this could be a start, or this could be a step in that direction, right? And we push the
Yeah.
industry forward, we push the game forward to make it more available to other players and for other people
Yeah.
to be able to see the magic and the benefit they would get from it.
Yeah.
Like as we are growing and expanding, one of the things that I do appreciate about communities is how they are able to push or introduce Dungeons and Dragons to support um, people who want training in communication, or even children in establishing their communication and how they can communicate better. And that's really just the benefit of the game. And aside from it being fun, it does have
Yeah.
its benefits in terms of how you can really push for a better, self-confidence or stuff like that, and better team dynamic. And hopefully, as we capture that, uh, maybe we can empower other D&D groups in the Philippines to
Do their own
record their
streams,
own,
diba?
do their own
Oo,
streams or
we'd love
record
to
their own
watch your
content.
streams. Actually, yeah, maybe you can, when the video of this comes out, put, comment, give, and we'll mention them, and we'll mention your shows in the next stream, maybe. If you guys comment and, watch the video. If you've
Yeah.
gone through this part of the video, you probably watch us. So yeah, we'll mention some of your shows, and we'd love to watch them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We admittedly we're not really, we don't think of ourselves as the best. We
We're
just
not.
really we
Far from
really
it.
we just really want to do this because it's entertaining and it's therapeutic and it's fun, for not just for us but also for the other people who might be tuning in for the first time, for
Yeah.
our players or for our friends who support us in our geekdom. That's something that we really find value in, and just being able to do this on a weekly basis consistently has just been really helpful for
Yeah,
us.
very helpful. I mean, guys, get with the program. Our title is Short Rest with Fonzi and Carlo. It's not the helpful compendium of podcasts of the all earthly knowledge thingy. So just get it into your heads that we're probably some of the things we say here are really for genuine love of the show.
Yeah, we're
Some
just
of
like
them,
you.
so-
We're
yeah,
just like
man,
you.
exactly, right?
We're just like you. Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, as our short rest is coming to a close, any parting words about what we talk about today, Carla? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just have fun in your games, man. And yeah, run more of those. Don't be a dick to each other. I've watched this recent video. I just posted it. Be excellent to each other. That's it. I don't know. I wanted to sound inspirational, but yeah.
Yeah,
Wala
and
naman, that's it.
for me, like there are a lot of amazing content out there, and creating content out of hobbies or out of something that you love, like Dungeons and Dragons, is really something aimed to add more value to you. So support creators in subscriptions and sharing, in comments, in positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Those are really really valuable. And creators are like Carlo and like myself. They, while it's not really something that we are it's not something that we want, but it's definitely something that would motivate us and push us forward. So if there are shows, if you are supporting any shows or watching shows or any content, published content about Dungeons and Dragons or about anything that you're passionate about, support them by liking, subscribing. It's free to subscribe, free to like, free to comment, free to lend a positive word out there. So,
Yeah.
in the words of Carlo, be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes.
Yeah. So it's time to wrap up our short rest, bud.
Yeah. So guys, before we wrap up, Fonzie, where can they find you, man?
You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter at fonzitoot.com, maybe /fonzitoot.
It's that Fonzie dude.
Yeah.
How
That's
am
right.
I the only? Why do I remember your username?
And you can visit our website at activateleadership.blog. I have a coaching podcast as well at Activate Leadership PH, and that's where you can find me. How about you, Carlo?
So,
Where can people find you?
Yeah, follow Fonzie, the ancient golden dragon in this podcast right now. It's what
Not
he's
wearing black.
Yeah, finally. And you can find me at carlogeeksout.com. And you can also subscribe to this channel where if you're watching this, you're probably subscribed. If so, hit the bell icon so you get notified of updates. Yep, somewhere in there. Ayan, okay. Also, yeah, you can find me at Instagram and Twitter, Carlo P. Gonzalez. And yeah, I also have a Facebook page. Just go search Carlo Geeks Out. You can find me there. Alright, guys, this has been the Ancient Red Dragon and the Ancient Gold Dragon, Fonzie and Carlo. We'll see you guys again next time. Be excellent to each other, and remember, party on, dudes.
A short rest with Fonzie and Carlo.